Dialga VSTAR has one of the most insane comeback attacks in the game right now. For 4 metal and a colorless, it does 220 damage and it lets you take another turn. So we just get to skip our opponent's turn. It's kind of nuts. Now it may sound like a lot of energy, but we're going to be using Metang to power it up. It lets us look at the top 4 cards of our deck and attach any number of metals we find there to our Pokemon in any way we like, and put the other cards on the bottom of our deck. So it's really no problem to charge up the V-Star attack, and it also lets us do more damage with Dialga V-Star's first attack, that for a colorless does 40 plus 40 for each metal energy attached to this Pokemon. Now, people have not been playing this deck very much lately, or at least it hasn't had the most amount of success. But according to the data on Limitless, it hasn't been being played that much, which is kind of weird. I was playing this deck the other day and it still seems really strong. I don't really know why people stopped playing it. The V-Star attack is still insanely good at either catching up in the prize trade, fixing it. Like if you're behind, you can just take 4 prizes in 1 turn, so you can go pretty far behind. Or you can knock out 2 of your opponent's engine Pokemon, like 2 Curlias, and Iono your opponent low, and they might just not be able to find another good attacker. So I think Dialga is still really good right now. Still playing basically the same list. I cut a metal for a Turo, which the Turo could be a Turo or a Metagross. I just have it in there right now because the first few weeks of the ladder, it seems like people play a lot of Snorlax to get free wins and stuff, so I threw a Turo in there. It's already got a decent Snorlax matchup, but they can just high roll and hit your Beldums and your Prime Catcher and stuff. So I figured a Turo would just shore up the matchup. So we're going to want to go first with this deck and get down at least 2 Beldums and 1 or 2 Dialga Vs and then a Greninja and a Mew. So our ideal board is 2 to 3 Metangs, 2 Dialga V-Stars, and a Greninja or a Mew, and then at some point weaving in the Zamazenta as a single prize attacker to kind of throw off the prize trade a little bit. But yeah, so that is the deck list. Let's get into the games. Alright, so looks like we're up against Raging Bolt this game, and I do believe I won the coin flip and chose to go first. Can't really remember because either one of us would have chose for me to go first. But I Ultra Ball there just to draw an extra card with Mew. I guess I could have just attached the energy. I really wanted to find a Buddy Poffin to set up to be able to maybe get a V-Star off next turn, or at the very least knock out an Ogerpon or maybe the active. You do need 5 energy to knock out the Raging Bolts for 240 damage. So 1 Metang really isn't going to cut it next turn, but hopefully we can figure something out. They're getting a pretty good setup. I don't know how this matchup should normally go. It seems like it should go good to me because you can pretty comfortably take 4 prizes on your V-Star turn. It's just whether or not they can stop you from ever having a Dialga V-Star in play. Maybe it should have nah, I was gonna say maybe the deck should have a Defiance Band so you can knock out the bolts with Zamazenta, but I don't think you really want to be adding too many techs to this deck. The strength in the deck really just comes from how straightforward it is and how consistently you can get off a turn 2 or turn 3 V-Star attack and just completely mess up your opponent's board. But my opponent is off to a pretty good start. Them putting the grass on the active is kind of scary. It makes me think that they probably have a Prime Catcher in their hand or they just messed up. And also that Bravery Charm kind of sucks. That makes us require 2 extra energy to knock out the Raging Bolt, which is quite a big difference. 5 compared to 7 is a lot. The 290 is really kind of an annoying number. Yeah, they do have the Prime Catcher. Oh boy, that's unfortunate, but what can you do? They knock out our only Dialga in play, but it costs them quite a few of their energy. So I can just Ultra Ball here, maybe get another Beldum, or just get a Metang. And I can also restart here before researching. That's pretty good. That's a perfect restart. I'm debating whether or not to get the Greninja or just another Beldum, but I think I'll get another Dialga just because I can find Poffin to also get Beldums down, or I can just draw into the Beldums. And I definitely wanted to get 2 Metang down or two Dialgas down just on the off chance that they also have a boss in their hand. I did get pretty lucky to hit 2 energy off of the Metang. Now, at the very least, I can hit them for 220, and if they boss up one of my Dialgas, I can just knock them out. It would have been nice if I didn't have the Mew or Zamazenta down so that I could get down a third Beldum. I didn't get the Poffin or anything anyway, but it would have been nice to have 3 down, because with 3, you have pretty good odds to get 5 energy in play to do the VSTAR. But with the Super Rod, I can also just put 3 energy back in the deck to greatly increase my odds of getting to 5 next turn anyway. My opponent is drawing really good this game. They have more than enough energy in play to pretty much get through the entire game. Luckily they sodded though and they only have 9 cards in their deck. Wow. This Raging Bolt deck really is very, very good. They switch card. They have 2 Bravery Charms. They're going to Lost City my Zamazenta, which is fine. I wasn't going to use it again anyway. That Lost City must be for like the Guardy matchup, or maybe like to help against Lost Zone. Oh, but they do leave this guy in the active with the 2 energy on it. That's always kind of risky. I guess it's fair enough with the way that my board is right now. I'm just going to shuffle 3 energy back in. I'm going to do all my Metal Makers first. I hit 3. That is pretty good. Hopefully, I just need to hit 1 here, and I don't. That's kind of crazy. Now I'm not really too sure how to go about this turn here. Not being able to do the VSTAR, because I was going to boss up one of the Ogerpons and then hope to hit Prime Catcher off of my Iono and knock out, like take out their Bullet with the energy and one of their support Pokemon. But I can't do that now. So that kind of sucks. I think I just have to pass and hope that they don't have a boss. Because I really need to like save up for a big play here and hope that I can do enough with my VSTAR to make it so that they can't win the game on the following turn. I choose to just leave Mew in the active because I really want both of my Metangs and I want my Greninja in play. And giving them 1 prize is kind of no different than 2, and I can Iono them to 1 next turn, which is probably the main reason. They hit me with their own Iono, which is awesome, because I really didn't like that hand, except for the fact that I had an Iono. But I have a little bit of card draw for next turn, and this double boss Prime Catcher hand is kind of perfect. I can boss, VSTAR, and then Prime Catcher back up this Raging Bull and hopefully find an Iono off of my Greninja. If I'm able to use Greninja, I'll probably use my Metangs first just to see if I get an energy, just to shore up. Now I can definitely use Greninja. But I would use Metang first, make sure that I have enough energy in play to knock out this Raging Bolt here in the active before I chose to use Greninja, because knocking this out next turn is way more important than finding an Iono and whiffing the knockout. But I'm going to do that now. I'm going to knock out both their Raging Bolts actually, because they did put an energy on this one. Whereas before I would just knock out the Ogerpon because it would remove an energy from play, but now them having it 1 also on the Raging Bull, it's still just as good. And hopefully if I can get to an Iono, I can leave them with no attackers. Yeah, and hopefully win. And 1 card in hand, no attackers would be really nice. But unfortunately I don't get to it. Which I would just attach an energy to Greninja and retreat and Prime Catcher if I got the Iono. Oh, the Lost City's still in play. I was going to say I could Super Rod Mew back, but I actually can't. So we're going to have to leave them with 5 cards in hand and just hope that that's enough. And if they can't... Now I'm pretty happy that I knocked out that Raging Bolt last turn, because knocking out an Ogerpon would still leave them an attacker that they just needed 1 energy to knock me out, and they had it in hand, so they would have just won. So I guess I made the right choice there. They Nest Ball though, and they don't get a Raging Bolt, which that's a good sign. Maybe they prized their last one. Or maybe they only play 3 and there's 3 in the discard pile. I'm not really too sure about that. But this is like, these moments are always super nerve-wracking. It's probably one of the funnest parts of Pokemon, just like, does he have it? And he doesn't, so we end up winning that one. So I choose to start Greninja in this one, and my opponent flips over a Mimikyu, which makes me super nervous that this is going to be Snorlax, and I could have just started Dialga and basically won the game on the spot. But I started Greninja, so now there's a chance to lose. And they hit me with the flute, so this is definitely Snorlax. I retreated just on the off chance that it was though, before they could get a Snorlax into the active. I just kind of burn these Pokégears here. I really don't know why. But now I can just super rod back in 3 energy and go, or 2, because I want to be able to use Dialga's attack to set up for the VSTAR next turn. And set up to VSTAR something on the bench and then Mew this Mimikyu. And I'm really just kind of hoping to win the game off of next turn if they can't get 2 more Pokemon in play. That's why I didn't Iono them. They couldn't get 2 Pokemon in play last turn, so I don't want to give them any extra cards here. And this really is the power of this Dialga deck. Like, if your opponent even stumbles for a second and you get a decent start, yeah, now I just win, which is absolutely insane. I can just hope to hit a energy off of, yeah, and I get the energy off the Metal Maker. Now I win the game, which, I don't know. I think that's like the coolest part of this deck. My opponent stumbled for 1-2 turns, and now they lose the game, which is pretty great. And I love beating Snorlax like this. Nothing makes me happier. So my opponent's got a Squawkabilly in the active here, and we are going first. I'm guessing this is like some kind of Turbo Roaring Moon deck or something at this point, but I'm just going to set up my board as usual. I could Ultra Ball away my Super Rod and the Metal Energy, but I don't really want to do that. So we're just going to attach and pass. My opponent vessels away an Enhanced Hammer, which makes me think this is probably not Roaring Moon. And they get 2 Psychics, which confirms that it is not in fact Roaring Moon. It is probably Gardevoir, and it's probably Henry Brand's list from NAIC or something similar to that. I haven't really seen anyone else playing Squawkabilly and Gardevoir. They also have 2 vessels. That's interesting. Oh, they had a ton of energy in their hand. That's kind of wild. Wow, the Squawkabilly really is good for getting a turn 1 setup. And they're just going to retreat to a Ralts. They're thinking they don't need 4 in play, and they don't want to give me a 2-prize Pokemon, but little do they know. Actually, I could have knocked it out, but my hand sucks. So I'm probably going to knock it out anyway. Or no, I'm just going to Metal Coating. I thought I was going to Prime Catcher and knock out the Squawkabilly, but I choose to Metal Coating because their board is full. They can't get away to knock me out if I don't take a prize. They probably, I know Henry Brand's list does play 1 rare candy, so I am kind of wary of the fact that they could Candy Guardy and knock me out with a Drifloon, but if I don't free them up a board spot, they can't do that, so I choose to Metal Coating and assure that I can in fact use my VSTAR attack next turn, and I get the boss. So I can bring up Squawk and just kind of prize race them and say I'm going to win the game just faster than them. Or I could bring up the Kirlia and hope that they cannot attack next turn. I don't know, it's kind of a weird decision, but I do end up bringing up the Kirlia. Like I said, I am kind of wary of the fact that they could get to a rare candy next turn. But this could buy me even more time, and now they're forced to choose, yeah, they gotta send me up Greninja, because they don't want to lose another Kirlia, or another Ralts, I mean. Now I'm setting up my second Dialga, which is kind of nice. My Prime Catcher was in those cards. That's definitely something that you gotta get used to with this deck on live, is making sure that you click the all tab to see what cards are going to the bottom, because it's pretty important to decide the way that you want to sequence your turns and stuff. Like if I had the reason I played that Poffin was to shuffle my deck because I wanted to have access to the Prime Catcher if possible, so I shuffled my deck to re-put that in with the other cards. And there's just a lot of times that you kind of want to save, or not save cards, but take note if you want to shuffle your deck or not. So they're getting out a couple Curlias now. I can't really do the same play that I did last turn, obviously because my VSTAR's not available, but like knocking out their only Curlia, which makes sense. You got to figure that they were gonna get rolling. I do wish that I put down Zamazenta into play last turn just to have another attacker, and they choose not to unfair stamp me that turn, which is interesting. It's giving me a chance to fix my mistakes, so hopefully I go ahead and put Zamazenta in play. I'm really hoping that's what I do here, but I don't. I don't think I do, because I kind of remember this game and I definitely could have played it better. So now that we have Greninja in play, because I'm more worried about unfair stamp than just like, I could have just had 3 attackers set up and been in a pretty fine spot. So I really should have done that. That would have been much smarter. I did get Prime Catcher though, so I could just go down to 2 prizes and hope that these Dialga VSTARs can take me my remaining prizes. It also puts my more built up Dialga onto the bench where it's a little bit safer. So that's kind of good. I get 2 medals out of the prizes, which maybe that's why I was whiffing quite a few of those Metangs, because I did cut a medal before this game for the Turo, and yeah, and I prized at least 2. But I never got to use the Turo, but in my head it makes sense as a ladder tech, just because I have been hitting Snorlax like crazy, and it always makes me not want to play as much at the beginning of a split, because I don't enjoy playing against that deck. It's not very fun. But yeah, so I get Iono to 2. I draw the Zamazenta and the boss, which is pretty nice. And they put the Mew in place, so I'm like, oh, I just win. That's pretty cool. Because I don't expect them to disrupt my hand or anything. I don't know if they'd really want to unfair stamp me or Iono me and then unfair stamp me. That'd be kind of weird, but if they need the extra card draw, I guess they might do it. But I'm kind of like slowly catching in to what their play is here. They're going to copy my VSTAR attack, and it leads to perfect math with the Monkey Dory to basically knock out both of my Dialgas, which is incredibly annoying, and it actually leaves me in a really awkward position. My opponent this is why Guardy is just so strong. My opponent's really playing this really well, and you also don't expect Mew in the Guardy list right now. I think around here is when I realized that, oh crap, 220 plus 60 is in fact 280. And that is super awkward. They can just counter catcher before they knock out this Dialga next turn. And yeah, then I'm in a terrible spot. So this isn't looking good. And the whole world is fighting against me to record this video right now. Cat keeps meowing and ruining my audio. And I don't know, my family keeps walking through the house every 10 seconds. It's kind of frustrating, because for a while I just like had this time to just do record this and stuff. And now just everyone is home and walking around everywhere. Alright, but yeah, it's not looking good. So the silver lining is that they have this Mew in play, and if I can just get a little bit lucky off of Metangs, I can still win by knocking out the Mew. So yeah, there's always that, as long as they don't Turo it or anything, and they immediately Turo it. So this match like really flipped pretty quick. This is really showing the strength of Gardevoir. Like the deck is really kind of insane right now. Very strong. It's just a little awkward. I don't know. I think the newer Gardevoirs are a little awkward to play just because of it seems like your resources are so much more limited. Like whenever you're using Curlia's abilities, it's just a pain. Like before you would just level ball and thin your deck out a bunch. And now you gotta like decide if you want to get rid of your Arven or Super Odd or something like that every turn, it feels like. And if you just trade away too many Arvens, then you get Iono'd out of the game later because like you're not drawing nearly as many cards as before. But they put Metang into the active spot here, and they're gonna try to knock out both of my Metangs, it looks like. I wonder if they're... I don't know if I've seen a Drifloon, but it seems like that you would definitely want to knock out my other Dialga here. That's kind of where I thought that they were going with this, but they do choose to, I don't know, set up probably they're going to boss next turn and knock out both Metangs at the same time, which does leave me a chance to win. I do have a boss in my hand. I need to hit quite a few energy, so right now I'm thinking if I top deck an energy, and if I hit 1 or 2 energy off of this first Metang, I'm going to boss up the Gardevoir and see if I hit the enough energy off of the second Metang. So I need what? 5 is 240. Yeah, I need all these energy I have right now, so I need to hit 2 off of this other Metang. But I do think that this might be my only chance to win the game, so I just go for it. Goodness. Yeah, and I do end up hitting both the energies, which is pretty lucky. Maybe I could have waited another turn to see if anything bad like if they were able to win the game or not. I'm not sure. I'm still not sure about that. What could they have done? They could have also Iono'd me again, because I was at that point probably building up more cards in my hand. They were gonna knock out both of my Metangs, which really wouldn't have made a difference at that point. But once I got the 7 energy on my Dialga, I was kind of worried that they were gonna go, oh, that can knock out my EX now, and either Turo up their EX, which would have just kind of checkmated the game, or bossed it up and knocked it out with like a Drifloon or something. So I did think that that was my last turn to make something happen there and win the game, and it did end up working out, which is kind of lucky, but it's like calculated luck. You gotta just go for it sometimes, which may or may not have been the right move. But yeah, we do end up winning that one either way. I think this deck is still pretty good right now. It seems like in theory it's still in a similar spot to the last format. It has a very similar matchup spread to any of the other good decks right now. It's kind of weird looking at Limitless, because they factor the ties into win percentage, I'm pretty sure. So almost every deck has like below a 50% win rate into everything else, except for like every deck will have its like 2 good matchups or whatever. It's kind of weird to look at, but Dialga's pretty much 50-50 with everything, against everything, with maybe a couple good matchups. Like, it has a good matchup into Regidrago, Miraidon, Iron Thorns, Ancient Box, Chiampao. It is slightly favored into Charizard Pidgeot. The only like truly bad matchup looks like it's Lugia, but Lugia matchup hasn't really been played that much. Like I said, there's not the most amount of data on this deck right now because people haven't really been playing it, and maybe that'll change, maybe it won't. It got a little bit popular after it won that regional that it won, but I don't think the popularity really stayed all that long. Maybe people just don't like the deck, or they view it as too much of a high roll deck. I'm not sure. But yeah, like or dislike and comment and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about Dialga. It's I don't know, I think it's good. But take care and have a good one.